very quick update. Um, if I remember what I was gonna say. So, one, when I went to see my mom, I go to see my mom every day, but maybe last week or something, an old man he wandered into the room and he sat down, and I guess he was lonely, so we started talking, and then he said that he's being followed, and I asked him, I said, by who? And he said it's a secret. So we talked for a little more, and I think he's serious, and it's not dementia with him. He might have dementia, but I mean, I've heard of older people being gang stalked, right? I even heard of someone from the civil rights era being targeted this way. There's a book by Corkin Cherubini. Like, I think that's the guy's name. Like, Gang Stalking: The Threat to America. Old guy, but yeah, I mean, they were targeted back then too. Anyway, in addition to that, not every time I come there, like sometimes when I go there, both my mom and her roommate are coherent. They're cognizant. They can respond. They can smile to a certain extent. They can laugh, right? And then other times they're both completely zonked out, like just almost like unresponsive at the same time. And I'm wondering if I started wondering, are they being drugged, like to make the job of the caregivers easier? So I asked the doctor, and he said that no, it's probably just the liquid, the feeding tube. I'm just gonna let the phone ring. I'm gonna talk through it. So he said no, it's probably the feeding tube that's just making her sluggish or whatever, but she's not that way every day. So I don't know what's going on. Anyway, a lot of shit's happening. I am moving. I don't know how long I'm gonna keep her apartment. It's starting to look like she's not gonna come back. The thing is, sometimes she does seem like she's improving. So, if she gets well enough where she can come back, I want to have a place for her to come back to. So I don't know how long I'll be able to afford her apartment as well as mine. I got mine because I can't stay here indefinitely if she's not coming back, because I was a caregiver for her. This is a senior, this is for seniors. I was her caregiver. Anyway, it's been chaos, just chaos, right? I tried to call to set up, electricity in the new apartment, and they had told me to do it a while back. They said you can do it early and set it for a date in the future. So I called, and they said I couldn't. Management told me to do it sooner, but I called the electric company, and they said that I couldn't because someone had already put in a request for electricity at that apartment. Great. I don't know what, but they said try back in another week. It might be a mix-up. It might be something. So, of course, that's up in the air now. Then there's trying to get all my mom's mail and information, moved, and sent to the nursing home. So I called her insurance company, one of them, she has a few, and they said because she didn't put me down as power of attorney with them, they can't speak to me. I told them I have power of attorney. They said they need me to email it to them or fax it to them or what, not email it, but fax it or send it by mail. So at the nursing home, I had them fax it, and they got one slip back. Like they said, it takes 2 papers. You get 2 papers back once the fax goes through. They got one back. They said, the other didn't come back. I'll have to wait for it. So I waited. It still didn't come back. They said, well, it could take a while. That's fine. So I left. I came back this morning. I spoke with the guy who told me, yeah, it never went through. He said he's never seen this happen before. He doesn't know what's wrong, but maybe I should call them and find out what's going on. That, in addition to the fact that something needed to be changed at the hospital that my mom typically went to in her records. So I went there with the documents to change it, and they can't change it. They said it had to be done through the doctor at the nursing home. Nothing is getting done. Like, I'm running around ragged trying to at least get one damn thing done, and nothing can just be done and settled. Everything has to be left open, left hanging. I'm stressing out. Not one goddamn thing is allowed to get done. Another thing with moving is that, you need to coordinate the pickup at the building you live in with the new building with the movers. So all 3 have to agree on the time and date. So I said that I'm gonna, I talked to the maintenance at the landlord, not the landlord, the maintenance of the building, because that's what I was told to call the building I'm moving to. And I called, he didn't answer. I called, well, the first time I called when I a few weeks ago when I got the apartment, like December 1st is when I'll be moving in. And I called him and we talked and I said, I'll be coming, when should I pick up the keys? He said December 1st. This is fine, okay. So I left it at that, but now I called again because I wanted to find out two questions. One, what time do I go to pick up the keys? And two, when can I have movers come to move my actual stuff? It'll be some time later in December. It won't be December 1st, right? So he didn't answer his phone. I emailed him. He responded saying, that's fine. I'll whatever. And I said, okay, I scheduled the movers for, I gave him the date. It's later in December. And then I said, but I'll also be picking up the keys on December 1st. What time should I come? Please let me know. Great, then I'll see you then. He responded with, that sounds great, I'll see you then, but he never told me what time to come pick up the keys. And there are a lot of technicalities, because I want to make sure I'm there and I know what to do before, the movers come later in December. Because you have to go around the back. I'm not sure where to go around the back because, like, on the street, there's no alley, so, you have to go around the other way, and there's a lot of things you have to do. I want to make sure my name is on the mailbox so I can get mail there. I have to change my driver's license. I have to do all of this shit. And now I don't even know what time I'm going to pick up the keys when I go. I don't know if he's going to respond to the call because he put his number in, an email. He said, this is my number. So I tried to call him and of course he didn't answer again. Everything is up in the air. Not one goddamn thing can just be done. I can't just relax for over one thing. But I can't, I'm not gonna make a fuss because the management at the building seemed really nice, the new building, and I can't cause trouble. I don't want to start trouble even before I move in, right? Because you don't realize how hard it is in America to rent an apartment. You have to have damn near excellent credit score, which means you have to have taken out loans and paid them back, right? You have to pay money lenders in order to be able to rent an apartment, even if you don't need a loan, right? Take out credit cards, pay them back, raise your credit score. Because if your credit score is too low, you can't rent an apartment, right? So you have to get into debt in order to rent an apartment, even if you don't need to get into debt. And you have to stay in debt because you have to maintain that. Like you're constantly paying off something on time to keep your credit score high enough. It's ridiculous. And then there's the issue of they also want 1 or 2 years of references from somewhere you rented before. Well, what if you never rented before? What if you were a live-in caregiver like I was and you're not on the lease, right? And what happened when we tried, and this is before when I was applying for a different apartment, which I'm glad I didn't get because the one I got is nicer, smaller, but nicer. We tried to send the documents to the management here to sign, and they said they opened it and it was hieroglyphs. She said she never seen that before. And this keeps happening. I've never seen this before. What's going on? Yeah, well, and then we sent the documents again, and she just never responded, right? And so they weren't going to give me a reference here anyway, just because of all the times I've complained about the shit that's going on here. And that's the thing. People say, why don't you speak up? Why don't you complain? Why don't you? Well, I have. And I almost ended up homeless because of it, because when my mom, if she can't come back, I can't stay here. And if I couldn't, now luckily I was able to rent an apartment, but if I couldn't, where the hell would I have gone? When you need a perfect credit score, you need references from the place that you rented before, you need all this shit. You don't realize how hard they make it to live here. And if you complain too much, people can just write you off. That could mean homelessness. So I can't just, I'm going to have to ignore a lot because I know the psychopaths are going to follow me to the new building. And I'm going to have to ignore a lot because I'm going to need them, eventually when I move at some point in the future, because I'm going to need that for building references for, and I can't go through this again, right? Anyway, that's what's been going on. There's a lot more, but, oh yeah. It's hard because I have to lock important things up every time I leave. And sometimes I'm just too exhausted to do that. So one time I was just too tired to keep doing it. So I left and I put my cell phone camera by the door to record. When I came back, it was off, and it was like it recorded 2 seconds. So they came and they shut it off. They shut it off, and maybe they turned it on again to record a few seconds and then shut it off again. So that's what happens when you leave cameras out. And years ago I had, the the live stream cameras to record when I was out. And there was a time where the internet got shut off. So the feed was gone. And then it got shut back on again. I have no clue what happened in the time where the internet was shut off. It's impossible. And at this point, I'm starting to figure out who's behind it, and I can't say it. I can't say it. It's not who I thought it was. I'm going to end that here.